Somebody is lying, and I can't wait to find out who. Nafisa Collier, if what you said is true, just make sure you got that on recording. Hey, Cathy, if what you said is true, just make sure you got that on a recording.
WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert stood before reporters claiming she'd do better. But what she really did was dodge every question about the allegations Nafisa Collier dropped. Allegations that rocked the WNBA to its core and shamelessly disparaged its biggest star, Caitlin Clark. You could see it in her face. She wasn't answering, she was surviving. But why lie when players, coaches, and even media are calling her out in real time? Today, we're breaking down exactly how Engelbert got caught twisting the truth, and why NBA's top honcho, Adam Silver, might be the one forced to clean up her mess. Do you think Engelbert should be fired? Let us know down in the comments below.
First, let me repeat this. You saw it in my statement, but I have the utmost respect for Nafisa and for every single player in our league. They are at the center of everything we do. I was disheartened to hear that some players feel the league and me personally do not care about them or listen to them. And if the players in the W don't feel appreciated and valued by the league, then we have to do better and I have to do better.
How did Cathy Engelbert think she could talk her way out of a scandal everyone was already watching unfold? The moment she stepped behind that podium before the finals, every seat in the room felt heavier. Reporters weren't there for pleasantries. They were waiting for truth. And instead of giving them that, Engelbert reached for the oldest trick in the crisis management handbook. Start soft, show empathy, and hope the audience forgets why they're angry. Her opening line promised to do better, a phrase so overused it's empty now, especially when it comes from someone accused of ignoring the same players she claims to support.
Hi, Cathy. Malika Andrews, ESPN. I just wanted to get some clarity on some of the specifics that Nafisa Collier said about your conversation that you had that was previously private. Did you in fact say that, quote, players should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the rights deal that I got them?
The setup looked polished. She thanked the media, praised the postseason, and framed her role as one of growth and progress. For a split second, it almost worked, until she brought up the controversy around Nafisa Collier's comments. That's when the smooth, well-rehearsed act started to unravel. Engelbert dismissed Collier's words as inaccurate, yet she never once gave a straight denial to the most important part of the claim, that she allegedly told Collier Caitlin Clark should be more grateful. That silence spoke volumes. Instead of clearing it up, she tried to smother it under vague phrasing about miscommunication and ongoing dialogue.
I think what's most helpful is to focus on, I have been in touch with Nafisa, we've exchanged texts, we're talking next week. So I think obviously a lot of reporting, a lot of inaccuracy about what I said or what I didn't say. And I will tell you, I highly respect the players. There's a lot of emotion and passion going on right now because we're in collective bargaining, we're in the WNBA finals. And so I'll leave it there. I mean, I'm just obviously disheartened.
It was the kind of response you'd expect from a corporate boardroom, not the leader of a league built on authenticity. The more she spoke, the less anyone believed her. Her tone was clipped, too careful, like she'd rehearsed every word in front of a mirror. When a reporter pressed again, wanting a simple yes or no, she didn't flinch or clarify. She pivoted to the league's growth metrics, as if throwing around business jargon could erase what everyone came to hear. Every answer felt like she was describing a spreadsheet instead of real players with real frustration.
I'm a human too. I have a family. I have 2 kids who are devastated by these comments. And so all I'll say is just, it's obviously been a tough week. And I just think there's a lot of inaccuracy out there.
Meanwhile, the contrast with Collier couldn't have been sharper. In her exit interview, Collier didn't sound like a politician. She sounded like someone who had hit her breaking point. No script, no consultant, just raw honesty about how players were tired of being dismissed. That difference exposed Engelbert's problem. One spoke from lived experience, the other from a teleprompter. Fans can sense authenticity. And in that moment, every person watching could tell which one was genuine.
That's a mentality driving our league from the top. We go to battle every day to protect a shield that doesn't value us. The league believes it succeeds despite its players, not because of them. We have the best players in the world. We have the best fans in the world. but right now we have the worst leadership in the world.
By the third round of questioning, even the most composed journalists looked irritated. Reporters tried different angles, hoping she'd drop the PR curtain and speak plainly. She didn't. Every sentence looped back to the same phrases. We're evaluating. We support all players. We're focused on the future. It sounded robotic, detached from reality, like someone describing a fire while insisting everything was fine because they'd scheduled a meeting about it.
You've continued to express that you're disheartened by the characterization of your conversation with Napheesa Collier. Just again, seeking clarity, did you in fact say that Caitlin Clark should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything? And do you actually feel that way, that without this platform, players like Caitlin Clark wouldn't be making what they do off the court?
Then came the line that defined the afternoon. She declared she was not a quitter. To her, that was supposed to project strength. But to players and fans, it came off as tone deaf. Nobody had asked her to quit. They had asked her to take responsibility. Instead, she framed herself as a victim of criticism, a leader unfairly attacked for doing her job. The problem wasn't persistence, it was pride. People weren't angry that she stayed calm. They were angry that she refused to admit fault.
Caitlin has been a transformational player in this league. She's been a great representative of the game. She's brought in tens of millions of new fans to the game, proud of what she's put on the court. Unfortunately, the injuries held her back from a full season this year. But again, I'm not going to get into every point, counterpoint. It's not productive here. We're here to celebrate the WNBA finals. I think what Indiana just did was amazing with all the injuries they had and the everything they faced this year, bringing that to a Game 5 in overtime. But yeah, as I said, there's a lot of inaccuracies reported out there.
That's when the mood in the room shifted. For those watching live, it became clear her biggest mistake wasn't lying. It was pretending the lie wasn't visible. Players were tweeting reactions before the presser even ended, and they weren't subtle. The gap between her polished words and what players had experienced firsthand grew wider by the minute. Engelbert didn't just lose control of the narrative, she lost credibility with the very group she's supposed to represent. Heading into the upcoming CBA season, that matters more than any sponsorship deal. The players' trust isn't a formality. It's the fuel that keeps the league from fracturing. And now that fuel looks dangerously low. Her press conference, meant to calm the storm, ended up warning everyone how deep the divide actually runs. Reporters packed up knowing they hadn't just covered a media event. They had witnessed a moment that could redefine the league's power dynamics.
A trend we've seen this season has been the increase in injuries. According to the 9 Basketball's database of injuries, injuries were up 36% this year. And even in the WNBA's own numbers that were shared with Bloomberg, they say they were up 29%. So amid change to officiating and what could come of that, I guess, what is the league prepared to do to address this increase in injuries going forward?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. Obviously, injuries are the worst part of sports, in my view, especially injuries that occur due to the physicality. I think our game is bigger, faster, stronger, certainly even in the last 5 years since I've come in to the league. I think the training, the development, the strength and conditioning, the nutrition, everything that's going into the level of the play of the players that a lot of our fans like is also adding to that physicality. And that's why I said in my prepared remarks, we have to determine where the players want that line to be, because I think they want some of that, but obviously we don't want injuries. And
the league wasn't just reacting, it was erupting. The backlash spread faster than the league office could post another prepared statement. Players who normally stayed quiet during controversy were suddenly speaking loud and clear. It felt like every athlete had the same thought at the same time. Enough was enough. When the commissioner dodged questions and downplayed Napheesa Collier's story, something snapped. The people actually living the WNBA experience, the ones putting on the jerseys and driving the league's rising popularity, refused to be silent anymore.
We're the players that are driving this change. And regardless of how it's said, I think the messaging stands the same from the players' perspective is things need to change, reffing needs to change, leadership needs to change. I think, our league is at a spot that it hasn't been in the past 10 years. Like, we're growing exponentially, and we need change to mirror that. And I think where the players see the league going is different than where leadership sees the league going, and somehow we need to see that align. And I think the CBA negotiations will help hopefully get us there.
Lexi Hull was among the first to jump in. Her statement wasn't long or dramatic, but it was direct. She publicly supported Collier and called out the lack of accountability at the top. Fans noticed how deliberate it was. Hull didn't speak as a cautious player afraid of league politics. She spoke as someone who's seen teammates overlooked and discounted. Coming from a player who has built her reputation on professionalism, that kind of statement hit hard. It set the tone for what would follow, a league-wide show of solidarity that made Engelbert's earlier words sound even hollower. From there, more voices joined. Aja Wilson, Elena Del Don, even veterans who had seen commissioners come and go. Each of them showed some form of support for Collier's message. Coaches stepped in too. Stephanie White, usually measured when it comes to leadership criticism, echoed the frustration. The fact that coaches, who rely on front office backing for their own job security, were willing to speak at all said everything. This wasn't a one-off disagreement. It was a moment when the people inside the league realized they couldn't keep pretending the relationship with their commissioner was stable.
She's in the way of our growth and our development as a league, not just on the player side, but on the league side. She's not good for basketball. That's what Nafisa got. Nobody questioned Cathy Engelbert's business acumen now, because we know she knows business. And you see the average player salaries, it was $28,000 when they first started. It's about, over $130 now. You got salaries over $200,000 now, some of them, but that's not enough.
The unity itself was rare. Normally, players are cautious about anything that could cost them fines, endorsement tension, or minutes on the court. But this time, the usual filters disappeared. Their tone online was strikingly consistent. They wanted honesty, respect, and leadership rooted in the reality they deal with every day. Many didn't mention Engelbert directly, but everyone knew who leadership referred to. Their approval of Collier wasn't just moral support, it was a warning shot to the league office that trust had collapsed. The officiating anger also resurfaced. Players connected the commissioner's dismissal of the Clark-Collier controversy to broader concerns about fairness and safety. Every season has featured complaints about inconsistent calls, but this time those frustrations symbolized something bigger: respect. It wasn't just about missed fouls or harsh technicals. It was about players feeling like their physical well-being and professional value came second to protecting the league's image. Engelbert's refusal to defend them publicly exposed that rift in vivid detail.
At the end of the day, you have a star player in the league saying the commissioner, this individual, is in the way of all of us. And that was her statement. I believe she should hand in her resignation.
Media figures who usually stay indifferent to league politics jumped in. Stephen A. Smith questioned Engelbert's awareness of player issues. Dave Portnoy used his platform to accuse the office of hiding behind PR instead of owning mistakes. Each public critique added another layer of pressure. The narrative spreading across sports media didn't frame Engelbert as a steady hand. It painted her as a liability. That shift matters in any league, but especially in one fighting to prove its stability to investors. Fans watching all this unfold weren't waiting for another press statement. They were waiting to see what kind of future the athletes themselves would demand next.
Do you give Cathy Engelbert credit for the TV deals that she has struck, or does all this kind of lead to her demise?
No, I give her no credit for anything she struck, because as far as I know, it was a struggling league until this new class of rookies came out. And I mean, listen, this may say a lot about my WNBA knowledge. If you threw Aja Wilson's name at me like 2 years ago, I'm not sure I really would have known who that is. I certainly wouldn't have known who Nafisa Collier is. Like, yes, I knew the bigger stars, and those are as big, but like I'm talking to Diana Taurasi, but I wasn't locked in on this league. Everything has changed.
What happens when the WNBA's biggest problem can only be fixed by the NBA itself? That's where this story heads now, because the drama that started with Cathy Engelbert's evasive press conference has grown way past player frustration. It's drifted into the territory where real money and control meet, territory that belongs to NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. Most casual fans don't realize that half of the WNBA isn't controlled by its own teams. It's owned by the NBA's Board of Governors. That means Engelbert doesn't just answer to players or owners of the individual franchises. She reports to Adam Silver, the person who sits at the top of the basketball food chain. Her job exists because the NBA allows it to, and right now, that might be the most uncomfortable fact in women's basketball.
Cathy Engelbert is being made to, or quite literally is, and sometimes that's a matter of perception from ownership. Players have said how they feel. Then yes, I would imagine her job would be in peril here. That though will have to come from the Board of Governors. That would have to come from NBA leadership, because as I understand, Cathy Engelbert, when she was named the first ever WNBA commissioner, reports directly to Adam Silver and his team.
This setup matters more than it seems. The WNBA might be smaller, but it's tied directly into the same machinery that runs billion-dollar TV contracts, corporate sponsorships, and global branding campaigns. The upcoming joint media deal, valued at roughly $2.2 billion, connects both leagues financially. If investors start seeing the women's side as unstable, it reflects back on the entire basketball operation. For years, Silver has spoken about alignment between the leagues. But alignment cuts both ways. When the WNBA helps grow the footprint of basketball, Silver can highlight it as proof that inclusion makes money. When leadership at the WNBA level becomes the story for the wrong reasons, every straight-faced quote about growth becomes awkward PR cleanup for the NBA office.
There are conversations that I'm sure the league and also the NBA leadership is having, because again, we're in the WNBA finals. We talked about NBA preseason coming, and this is probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest stories in basketball in the US right now.
Behind closed doors, that's exactly what has started happening. The conversation has shifted from whether Engelbert can regain authority to whether Silver will eventually step in to restore order before the next collective bargaining cycle turns chaotic. If the players' union goes into those negotiations distrustful of the commissioner, every clause becomes a flashpoint. A league that depends on partnership can't function if the players believe the top executive disrespects them. And with anger spilling across social platforms and talk shows, Silver's circle knows this isn't a small personnel issue. It's a reputational risk attached to real dollars and broadcast rights.
I did want to follow up, though, and ask, I think that the growing sentiment around the league, right, is that players, they feel that the right leadership isn't in place right now in the league office. So do you feel that you're still the right voice and expect to continue to be commissioner beyond this CBA?
There's precedent, too. Professional sports history is filled with examples of executives removed not because their work failed on paper, but because optics spiraled out of control. When sponsors, networks, or athletes lose faith, leadership changes quickly to stabilize value. That's the quiet conversation making its way around the league's executive suites right now. Insiders have reportedly described tense meetings where decisions are being delayed until the finals end, just to avoid overshadowing the games. Everyone understands the timing, but they also understand that ignoring the issue looks worse than addressing it. The phrase circulating internally is about protecting momentum, which is another way of saying the NBA wants to keep advertisers confident that women's basketball is still a safe investment.
Certainly, that's another inaccurate statement out there that everybody reads and takes clickbait on. Obviously, I've never been a quitter. I'm entering my 40th year, actually, this month in business. Never been a quitter, never shied away from tough situations. I think leadership, the cream always rises to the top, and I've always been someone who believes in the fact that if there's things we need to fix, we're going to fix them. If there are things the players have a perspective on that they don't like that we're doing or I'm doing, we'll fix them, Malika.
That's why whispers about Silver intervening have started to feel less like rumor and more like inevitability. At this point, it's not even about whether Engelbert deserves credit for the league's growth. It's about control, who actually has it, and who's being exposed as replaceable. Silver sits in that rare position where he could make a single executive decision and shift the WNBA's entire public trajectory. To fans, the so-called unmasking isn't just seeing Engelbert's mistakes. It's realizing she isn't the ultimate authority she pretends to be. Her future depends on a league she doesn't fully command, managed by a boss who values stability over loyalty.
He suggested Caitlin Clark should be grateful for what she makes off the court. That's preposterous. Did you miss the Iowa years? Clark is the Tiger Woods tide that lifts all boats, and we know this show is proof. The highest rating we have ever had followed one of her games at Iowa. The WNBA has benefited from her presence more than the other way around, even though this year for Caitlin Clark was essentially lost to injury.
For players and fans, that realization is turning into cautious hope. If Silver steps in, they imagine leadership finally aligning with the players instead of standing above them. It hints at a version of the league where frustration isn't met with polished denial, but with real accountability. And as the WNBA heads toward a pivotal 2025, that move could redefine who truly runs women's basketball and what kind of culture it wants to build next. With Engelbert's credibility gone, the focus shifts forward. The only thing keeping fans locked in now is the thought of what the new WNBA might look like once she's out of the way. The WNBA's next leap forward doesn't come from new slogans or marketing deals. It comes from removing the barrier between growth and fairness. That barrier is Cathy Engelbert. Players have already proven they can grow the game without her help. Now they need someone who actually values their voices. Fans can see it too. The Fever's rise and Caitlin Clark's impact signal a future driven by authenticity, not bureaucracy. Lexi Hull, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, this generation embodies what leadership should look like. The WNBA doesn't need another promise to do better. It needs people who actually will. Do you think Engelbert should be fired? Let us know down in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.